So, hello and welcome to the Lovely People webinar tonight. I think everybody's out enjoying the sun tonight. We might have a few late people. So everyone who's watching the recording, I hope you had a lovely time in the sunshine. Because that must be what you're doing. So I would like to introduce the lovely, how do you say your surname?
Muccillo or whatever. I'll answer to anything.
Okay.
Muccillo, Muccillo, whatever.
The lovely Debora Muccillo.
Debora M.
Yeah, Debora M. So,
I like that. Well, thank you for having me. And I don't know what we're going to share, what's going to come up today, but there's always something that does. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah. You were just telling us about your family, and it was getting really interesting. So I wanted to put the recording on because I didn't want to. Do you mind sharing?
No, I'll go back to that. I kind of, well, I was saying that I have 4 children, and I got married very young, 2 months before I was 18. So my parents, and he was quite a bit older than me. My parents signed for me to get married, but that was really my passion. I just wanted to get married, and I wanted to have kids, and I did. So before I was 19, I was blessed with my first daughter, and then I had 4 children within 5 years. So by the time I was 23, I had 4 children.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I can't remember where I was at on what I was saying to you, but I felt like, I have no regrets on anything that I did at that time in my life. But then what happened, I think as life progressed, I started internalizing a lot of things. And by that, I meant I was in a marriage that wasn't good. And I became ill a lot. So in that time of becoming ill, I started seeing a lot of things, and I really felt that it was a circumstance outside of me. So I've kind of been on a journey of listening to my own wisdom when it came to my health. So it's kind of like when I talk about the principles and how I got into the principles, I saw a lot of things that doctors had said about me, that I had, like, I don't know, I think they said 2 or 3 different immune system problems. What happened is I hurt my back. And when I hurt my back, the doctor said that I need to have surgery. And I got 2 opinions from doctors. And both of them said that. That was kind of like the first time in my life that I didn't listen to a doctor or anyone else. I just really went within inside of myself, and I had this voice that a lot of times, we all have, I wouldn't listen to all the time, that said, you're going to have a healing. I didn't know how, but I knew that I wasn't going to have a back surgery. Wow. So that opened me up to see a lot, especially the time I decided afterwards, when I started looking back at what had happened to me and making that decision. I saw that I wasn't anything special. We could all do that. And I went to see an acupuncturist, and she told me to bring my MRI, and I did. And she looked at it, and she was kind of, well, I'm not sure that I can help you. This is pretty bad. So I just started bawling, and I said, but you've got to help me because I am not having back surgery. So she's from China, and she just kind of, okay. So we did my first treatment, and 9 months, it took about 9 months of going to acupuncture, laying on the couch, looking into, listening to health and my wellness, and taking it back. So I started studying anything and everything I could on nutrition and health. And what I wanted to do is become a wellness coach, because I had seen how amazing my life started to change when I took care of my own health and made my own decisions towards it. So I was very close to signing up with International Coaching Academy, and then this other wellness academy. And before that, backing up, I was in art. So I was at the beach, walking the beach one day, and this voice that I heard said, you got to share what you know with people. And the next thing you know, I'm talking to a girl that came in my path, and she's talking about Michael Neal and his coaching program and the three principles, which I had no clue what she was talking about. So I came back to where I was staying. I Googled Michael Neal, which I didn't know anything about Hay House, anyone. And there was something he said, I don't even remember it wasn't in the words. And I just knew right then, just within a split second. And that's when I called and signed up. And it's just been the journey that what I've seen in these last 4.5 years is just like, there is no end to the depth of seeing this. So I feel very blessed. So I believe the principles found me.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
That's lovely. So what can you share with us that, like you say, the depth just keeps going, doesn't it, when we come to this understanding? So what would you say is kind of what you're seeing right now around the principles? What's the latest sort of thing that you've seen? What's fresh for you right now?
Okay. Yeah, there's actually several things. Last week I played tennis, which when this happened to my back, the doctor said, "Oh, you'll never play tennis again." But I played tennis, and I have no back problems. But anyway, I just was feeling kind of off that day, and didn't really want to play. And it's 7:30 at night, and I decided, I'm sitting there texting, trying to find a sub for me, and but before I hit send, I realized what I was doing, that I was feeling my thinking, and that I just need to go and see where it brings. So just little things like that happen all the time that I wasn't seeing it at that, 5 minutes before then, but then there was this feeling of, what's going on. So I went and played, and I played really good, and totally didn't even think about how I wasn't really feeling up to it or whatever. So I think that for me, I see things every single day, and everything and everyone and every situation.
So if there would be somebody new watching this video, we often have people, I send people to people webinars, so we have a lot of people who don't really know what the principles are. How would you share what the principles are? What does that mean to you right now?
Okay. Well, to me, and have when I first learned about them, I went to my first super coach, and I had mind, consciousness, and thought, because I really wanted to know what they were, and I had them in a notebook so that I wouldn't forget. And and through the years, it's like I still, it's still hard to explain it. You could ask me one day, and I might explain it one way, and another day another way. And I don't so much as to talk about it exactly how I learned it. You know what I'm saying? As mind is this, consciousness is this. I talk about it in stories and help people to see it that way. So, but for people that don't or know, it's mind, consciousness, and thought. And to me, it's this formless energy and that we're all part of. And there is no separation. There's no separation in that. And the more that we see what's really going on with our thoughts in any given moment about what's right or wrong or what anybody's up to, we see the truth behind all of that. So that's the part of thought. And consciousness is something that helps you be aware of what's going on all the time in the background. And a lot of times we don't see it, but at some point, understanding these principles, it comes to us, and we know exactly, what it is. I use a lot of different stories to help people understand things. And one that comes to my mind today is um, I have, I kind of for a long time felt like I think I said that I kind of needed to fix people or help people to see this. And now I've seen that I don't need to do anything but just be with them. And so this collective consciousness that we all are comes through, and it's not in the words. And it's very healing. It's very healing. It's healing for me. In fact, I was coaching a guy yesterday, and funny, he said, this is, I can see that this is just as healing for you when we talked about something very deep. So when I have two sons that have been in and out of addiction, and I used to look at it as, wow, I need to fix them, and is this ever going to get better? And both of them actually went to Florida to the three principal there, and it still didn't matter when they weren't when they were ready to hear it. They were going to hear it. It was still, they have the basis of it, but it's when that person's ready. So I think that for me, understanding the principles is that there is nothing for me to do, and wherever I am or wherever they are is exactly where they need to be. And the more that I have seen myself whole, and the more that I see other people whole, which I see my sons now is totally not broken, totally whole. And one of them is he's back to work, and he's doing really well, and he's seeing what he heard before, only in real life now that he's starting to kind of like the principles are coming to, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing. I see that, that my thought is my old way is to go after a drink because that's going to make me feel better or whatever it is. So they heard it, and now they're seeing it. He's seeing it. My other son is in prison for alcohol and drugs, and he actually gets out next month.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's been there, I don't know, over a year and a half. But when he first went, I had a lot of thinking about it, and I thought, I kind of blamed myself for I should have been more of this or whatever. And so understanding the principles, I know now that whatever happened was exactly what was supposed to happen, and I have no regrets to go back and wish something was different. And it took me time to see this, how things play out. But he actually has wrote a book, and when I saw him last, he gave it to me. It's handwritten in a notebook.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's funny because because he knew the principles, and when he got his sentence and he was going to be gone for quite a while, we both kind of like teared up on the phone. But yeah, he said something to me that he said, you're gonna be doing the work of the principles on the outside, and he goes, Mom, I'm going to be doing it inside. And so he did.
Oh,
and he's shared with a lot of people, and he's wrote this book. He gets out in 3 months, and he's just, so all things that you can see, I thought, oh, it was a bad thing, and it was a great thing. He's exactly where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
We're all doing exactly what we should be doing in every moment.
Yeah.
And we just think that we should be doing different things, but exactly where we are right now is absolutely perfectly imperfect. And no one's perfect, but we're all imperfect perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense.
Wow. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I think that seeing how things actually, this too will pass, and how they really play out, if it wasn't for our thinking that something's good or bad or right or wrong, is a big part of the principles and the spiritual end
Yeah, because we can be very good, especially as moms, at beating
Yeah.
ourselves up if our children don't do what we think they should do. You know, we feel like we're responsible for them, don't we? And you know, if they're not happy or they're struggling or they do something wrong or whatever, it can feel, we can kind of take that on. It's quite easy to take that on, isn't it? And it's a really, really, really good thing, I think, because there's so many people out there struggling with different things. And you know, it's really good when, thank you, I appreciate you sharing, you know, what's going on for your son. Because I think sometimes when people share about the principles, they talk about how their life is like this, and everyone thinks, oh, you know, my life's not so perfect. You know, oh God, I've messed up, I did this and I've done this wrong. And so it's really good actually to kind of hear some real life stories when actually, you know what, your son's...
Well, you know, the other day I have a granddaughter, and we went to the park. I had her for a day and a half, and I saw something. You always do, but we were at the park, and in my mind, I mean, for the last year or so, I thought, you know, you used to be really good at gymnastics, and I kept thinking, I really want to just do a cartwheel, right? but they thought in my mind, you know, there's words that, well, yeah, but you might break your back, or you might hurt yourself, or, you know, you're too old to do that, whatever the story was. And I would always, when that came in, I kind of believed that. So I was with her, and we were at the park, and we did a bike ride first, and just were in such a great place. And all of a sudden that thought came to me. I was in a playful, fun mood, and that thought came to me, and I'm like, I want to do a cartwheel. Didn't have any thinking about it, getting hurt or anything. And I not only one, I did three. And so she had her iPhone. She's like, she calls me Dee Dee. She goes, Dee Dee, she goes, do it again. I can't believe you did that. And so she did a video of me doing it, and she was showing everybody. She goes, how cool is that? You know, that, but I could have done it a long time ago if it wasn't for my thinking.
Oh.
Yeah. So we talk about what's fresh, you know, that happened, and a lot of the things that I do, or I see other people doing, I just see so much innocence in things, and seeing the truth behind what these principles point us to.
And also, it's really interesting, like, when you leave your thoughts alone, you just leave them alone, you find that when you're just doing your day-to-day things in life, and you're not giving any more thought to that thought you've had that's negative, right? Any more power, you feel that naturally it will change on its own accord, like the clouds coming and going in the sky. We are the sky, we are the sky, and whatever's coming through the sky is our happenings. And the weather. Absolutely. So we have all sorts of weather going on. But I find, personally, for me, experience-wise, if I leave my thoughts alone, I can feel really crap, really, really, like, sick in my stomach, horrible, like, feelings, really upset, angry, all these things. But you know what? I leave it alone, and more or less it just changes on its own accord, because I'm not giving it any more attention. So therefore, it's not going to stay around too long, is it? It's just going to pass. And every good thought we all act on, don't we? We love our good thoughts, don't we? Let's face it. We act on the good stuff. On the bad stuff, I kind of sometimes, I can't get rid of it. It'll come up through the day and pop up in my head every now and again. And I'll go, piss off, thought. Go away. Let me get on with what I'm doing. Let me know. But actually, it'll just keep popping up. But I know now, through the principles and this understanding of it, I know that it is nothing to do with me or anything. I am not my thoughts. That is not who I am. I'm a ball of stardust wrapped in skin. You know, it's true. We're made of the stars, we're made of the planets, we're made of the earth. We go back to the earth. When we die, we go back to ash. We go back to the earth. We are life itself. we're not a part of life. We are actually life itself. So let's not beat ourselves up about stuff. Do you know what? Things that happen, and they'll always happen, like really sad situations, loss, and, you know, addiction with your sons, Debbie, and other things, you know, things that are going on in the world. You switch on the news, it's all about Syria, or all these things. And God, we pray for them, you know, but really, we can only do what we can do as human beings. We're not robots,
Right.
you know. And yeah, and I'm not saying we don't have sad times and we should always be positive, be positive, be positive. People say, yeah, but you're feeling down, Krista, but be positive. Think of what you're grateful for. Do this, do that. But actually, that's more work. That's more work. It's more, you know. But if you kind of leave your thoughts alone, they'll change, because you're not giving any more power to it. I think when people overthink everything, analyse every detail of everything that's happening, why she said this, why he's done that, that's when you get so caught up in your thinking. But we all do that from time to time. But now we all know we have a gift of life, guys. We know how the three principles are working in every single human being. And when you see that in yourself, you see that in other people that don't have an understanding, and you have more compassion and love towards them, don't you? Because you know that they can only know what they know right now until they know any different. It comes back to you, Deborah, saying, and Debbie, sorry, when you said they're only going to hear it when they want to hear it. They'll only change when they're ready to change. Can't make someone change. Can't make someone change their mind. They've got to want to do it themselves. And I was in a very, very, very long-term relationship with someone with mental health problems for 8 years. And I've now been single for 9 months. And what I realised when I got into the principles 3 years ago, that's 8 years, so 3 years, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 years of going through good times in hell. The 3 years of coming across the principles, I've been around it. I used to see things, and it used to change my perception of everything, because I could see how it was. But we weren't gelling as a couple. I care about this guy as a friend. He'll always be my friend. You know what I mean? Yeah. You never have enemies, but I just know he's not right for me anymore that way. So I've kind of moved on from that. And I feel good about myself. I'm taking myself more seriously now, and in the sense of looking after my own well-being. You have to, I believe, look after yourself as well as others. But if you don't look after yourself and be kind to yourself when you're going through rubbish, then you get lost, and then you can't help anyone else because you're lost in yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Sorry. Hi, Cherry. My friend Cherry's joined. Hello, gorgeous. Oh, she's got a sunny top on, and look at that beautiful hair of hers. I love it. Sorry. Right, go on.
No, it's lovely. It's really, I think the great thing about this is having a conversation, because I think the principles are a great leveler, aren't they? They kind of.
Oh, yeah. It makes you open up and be more confident in everything, experiences of life, because it's all happening to each and every one of us. We're not different. We're all the same. We're stars wrapped in skin. We are.
I love that. That is lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
It's all right.
So, Debbie, what is it that you work with people now and share the principles with people? What do you do in having gone?
I do coaching, private coaching, but when you talked about retreats, I also have done retreats, and it really is one of my favorite things to do. And the first one I did was a youth retreat, and it was with a group of teenagers,
Mm.
and it was in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And this is a boarding school where these kids came from UK, wherever, all over the world. And they were there because of they were all overweight.
Oh,
They were
wow.
all overweight.
Mm.
And you know, I had spoke with one of their counselors about the 3 principles, and she said, well, would you like to come in and talk to them? So I did, and I was one of the first ones I did, and I just saw that I felt that it was so powerful because, you know, I really did. I started out kind of explaining what the principles were and had a chart and all that, and I could see that I was losing them. You know, I mean, even like this little chart, you know, the Born Happy chart, whatever it is, and I saw that I was losing them. So I thought, okay, forget that. So I started to share with them something about that I had never shared before. And when I talked about how it can be so healing for us, it's healing for somebody in the room. I don't know why it came to my mind, but this need to come to surface. So I talked about my father and how I found him, you know, and he had passed on. So I don't know why the story meant something, but we were always talking about how that played over my mind over and over again. And I had what I would have called PTSD, that finding him, and I would just like wake up and keep seeing that over and over again. But I shared this one story, and it was very silent in the room. And this one boy stood up and he started crying, had tears in his eyes. And he said, I know how you feel, because he said, I was started a fire in my home. And he said, my family lost everything because of me. Mm-hmm. And he shared that with everybody, and he went into depth with it. Well, then, you know, it was quiet for a little bit. And then another girl, she stands up and she says, raised her hand. She shared with everybody that she had the flu, and she went to go visit her grandmother when in her mind, she realized she probably isn't good to go because she wasn't feeling well with the flu, and her grandmother was elderly, but she went anyway. It was Christmas Eve. Her grandmother got the flu and she passed away, and she passed on. So this little girl was holding that blame. And then another one came up, and these stories, there were 4 that shared that day, and there were about maybe 15 kids. And the 2 counselors that were there, they came up later and they said, you know, bless you.
Sorry.
We knew nothing about this. So they were actually getting ready to go for summer break back to their homes. And they had been with them all year, and they still did not know any of these stories. So the power of, you know, of that connection that was in the room that allowed those people to heal and talk about, like what you said when we first started, sometimes people don't want to share these things, and we always end up on a positive note, but there's things that need to come out, and people in the room, whether it's loss or abuse or whatever it is. So when I'm doing these retreats, there's always healing, and we're all there for each other. So it's very, very spiritual, very very, very magical, very powerful. It's not me, but it's just kind of collective coming in the room, and I just love that. Yeah. So those kids were using food the same as, you know, that I started seeing everything, you know, as any kind of addiction, whether it's food or alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, and it's all the same.
It is, as we begin to see, isn't it, that there is no difference in any of these things. There's, like I said, this is a great leveler, isn't it? We see where we're all at with these things, and
So so with my sons, I think that for them, I saw them with, you know, you have a disease, you know, and like kind of like you're not ever going to get over that. So them seeing the principles and understanding, and the more I saw it to be true, that there was nothing wrong with them and they were okay, and this is just what they were using or doing, till they saw more from the principles of, you know, things that have gone on in their life. That's when I know for sure that things started to change for them.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a gift. It's a true gift what we know. And we still don't know everything. Like you say, it's an endless pot of gold in the sense of knowing everything about the principles. You can forever learn. You learn something new every day. I'm interested to know as well, Debbie, are you on Facebook at all? Because it'd be nice to chat to you about possibly a retreat that you're doing. Because I'd like to come and do one of these retreats. Obviously, I'll have to save my pennies up, but
well, possibly we can but possibly we can go there and do one. You never know. Whatever possibilities.
Yeah.
But I do know that come to the UK.
Oh, you
I do. Yeah. The healing that comes from these principles is just amazing, and I've seen it in myself, in my past. You know, you said what is fresh for me. My brother, 2 days ago, I reached out to him. I heard he had been ill, and we don't talk as often. And you know, I shared with him some things that I've seen about health and things that I've been through, and I saw how it seems like with my siblings especially, you know, I don't remember any of that old stuff. I don't remember anything of, you know, of the past. All I just feel is love for them and wherever they are right now. And in him sharing with his health issues, you know, I could see he had a lot of thinking about it. And I didn't try to change anything, only just be there with him, listen to what he was talking about. And so I get a message from him today, and he messaged me, which the message was really sweet and beautiful. And he just said, you know, I'm sorry that I was never there for you on the things that you went through. And, you know, I'm sorry. And it just, my heart was like, I wasn't wanting anything from him, but what he gave me was beautiful, because I already knew that, you know, that he was where he was at. He didn't know what was really going on with me. So I had nothing against it, but just seeing how when you have that love for somebody, how that can just change the world.
Yeah. It's powerful stuff, isn't it, when we just get into a place of love, because it's very, very easy to get into a place of feeling like we need people to be a certain way, whether it be, you know, our siblings or whatever, our children. We feel like we need them to be a certain way. It's very easy to put a lot of conditions onto things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Easy to put labels onto people as well, and you know, once you get rid of that labeling thing and the way you think someone should be, what's left? What's there? Look there, you know, look before thoughts come in. Look at the energy before it's come into form, and look in that place. And it's amazing when you talk about love, because we are it. We are love. Like, we actually think we need a partner in order to feel complete. I mean, that's madness. I mean, we are enough. We're always enough. And that's our essence is love, isn't it? Pure love. That's our essence. And that's what we need to spread. I put a thing on Facebook, kindness is like confetti, spread it everywhere.
I like that. I like that. And you're just total love. And the more we're present with somebody and we don't have anything on it, although I will have to say, I mean, I'm pretty honest on what what happens. And I remember hanging up the phone when I was talking to him, and I shared a few things with him. He goes, "Oh, I didn't know that you had a near-death experience. I didn't know you had this or that." And whatever it was, I remember thinking for a moment that he was never around for me. And there was just that feeling for a moment, and I connected to, yuck, I don't like that thought or that feeling, and it went away. Whereas before, years ago, I would have held on to some of those things. And I just realized that he was doing the best that he could, and wherever he was in life, he was. And then he sent that today. So it's just seeing that, yes, we are human. So that thought did come in my mind that he was never around when but then you come back to, I know where that was coming from. I know the truth in that one.
It is lovely when we start to see through the thoughts that have basically given us a lot of pain and a lot of, caused a lot of pain and suffering for many years. Yeah. It's like you say with your brother, and it's very, very easy to have history with people and feel that you can't forgive them for things that they've done. And it's really lovely when you see through that and begin to see that actually forgiveness isn't about the other person. Forgiveness lets you off the hook.
Yeah.
And you can see somebody with new eyes and see somebody with that love that you're talking about. Because it is when we have those thoughts that, like you say, labels and limiting thoughts and thoughts that kind of put people in a certain place or make them, in our mind they are a certain way and they will always be like that. If we can kind of just see through.
You know who you probably all know who Terry Alamo is, right? Do you know who she is? Oh, okay.
No.
I was speaking with her the other day, so I was just thinking about, it just popped in my head what's fresh for me. It seems like there's always something going on fresh. I should be writing about these things, right? But I have new ones all the time. So I was in an airplane about a little over a week ago, and the girl I sat next to, we just got in a little conversation, and she had told me that about labels, that she had 2 autoimmune disease, and then she, one was lupus, and now they're looking for something else. And one of the ones that they're saying that she has, is one that I've been diagnosed with in my blood too. So speaking with her and, seeing how she was just suffering with all of this stuff, and she quit her job, and as we talked, and she was talking about her hands and how they swell, I actually saw her hands swell more. And I got off the plane, and we kind of gave each other a hug, and I saw something about how I related my life when I was because she's in a support group. And I told her, I said, I was in a support group also. And this support group was when I was first diagnosed with this autoimmune, and it was called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. And I really became what I was labeled. I really became sympathetic dystrophy. A doctor asked me to start a support group. I knew nothing about support groups, but I did. And we probably had, most meetings there were in the 20s of people that showed up with the same, that had autoimmune. And it got to be to a point where it wasn't feeling good to me anymore to run this group. And I had people calling me at different times when they were going through their exacerbations of pain or muscle, problems or whatever. And I always seemed to be that person to try to, by the time we hung up, for them to see something different. And I didn't understand the principles or didn't know anything of the principles then, but now meeting that girl on the plane opened my eyes to see what a need that we have with a lot of these different groups, because it was, how ironic, I get something from, it's a flyer from the hospital as soon as I get home, and I open it up, and on the back, you open up and there's all these support groups. I mean, you can go to a support group for anything. There's some kind of support group. And it made me think about when I was, and I also went to alcohols and Al-Anon. And I remember I went one time and that was it. And that was that same feeling. So something's brewing on being able to bring the principles to support groups to be a more positive way, in a way that, you know, is going to help them see that they're not what they, whether it's diabetes, whatever it is. So that's kind of fresh and new for me. I'm kind of sitting on that, Deborah. So I just love the idea of how if we could change the way that people conduct support groups and how they could see the principles and how that could change their life. Because honestly, I'm sure if I had my blood taken, I mean, I may still have that, but it's not a problem for me if I happen to have a touch of it. You know, I just do it, it's over, and I get through it. So, but there was a time where it kind of really, I saw it taking it. I was in it a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is very easy to lose ourselves in our labels in that kind of way,
Yeah.
isn't it? With all sorts of things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the principles take us. I was talking to someone earlier, and I was saying I remember hearing this story that Jamie Smart told a while back, and he talked about a couple were sitting by a river having a nice little picnic, and then all of a sudden they heard somebody screaming and shouting, and they looked and there was somebody in the river, you know, going down the river drowning. So they rushed over to pull this person out, and then they sat back down, and then the next minute there was someone else coming down the river screaming and shouting, so they rushed over and pulled that person out. And before long, they were kind of both stood by the side of the river, just pulling these people out of the river. And then the young man kind of walked away and said, "Hang on, you stay there. I'm going off." And the lady said, "Well, where are you going? You know, I need help with this." And he said, "No, I'm going up river to see who's throwing these people in, stop them being thrown in." And I think that's kind of, with these sorts of things, I think it's a good idea to kind of, we can get, like with all sorts of things, we can get so drawn into whatever it is, the thing itself, that we forget to take that step back and actually, you know, what's creating, go back that step further. And instead of trying to sort the problem out, you know, within the problem, you know, the principles give us, within the, very much within the story, the principles give us somewhere else to go, that we can you know, stop the problem before it begins. And like you say, I mean, support groups and things, and raising money for these things are you know, I wouldn't say to people stop doing that, but I just think maybe some of us who've come across the principles, maybe our job is to go further upstream and stop the problem there. Stop the problem before it manifests too much and we're too into our labels, because everything is thought created, isn't it?
It is.
Everything.
Yeah. And I mean, if we have something, or we're, I mean, I know for positive sure that if it wasn't for my thoughts on whatever it is, and having an autoimmune, I mean, I don't even think about it anymore. I mean, until I met her, it's just like, I haven't thought about it, and I can't remember how long that, oh yeah, me too, I have it also. So not suffering with whatever it is we have is the important, I think, to see through the principles, is being able to understand that part.
Yeah. Because like Crystal was saying when she was saying about us being, you know, this stardust, you know, we are made of the perfect essence of this universe. That's, you know, at core, we are the perfect essence of this universe. And any kind of illness or anything like that is a thought that we've believed. The truth is the perfection. The truth, you know, the truth of who we are is wholeness and wellness and perfection and goodness.
And our hearts as well.
Yeah.
Our hearts tell us everything.
So yeah, and if we learn not to be so taken in by our thinking, and as we come across the principles, this a byproduct of beginning to see it and beginning to understand it. It shows up in places very often when we might have a particular problem or something, and we can get really frustrated because we maybe don't have insights around that. But I think once we're around the principles, all sorts of things in our lives, we just begin to drop thinking about all sorts of things, don't we? And it happens when it happens. We're not in charge of that. All of a sudden we have an insight around something, and like the way you view your sons has changed, the way, and that's, it's so freeing when that sort of thing happens.
It is freeing, isn't it?
And
it's such a nice feeling state to be in as well. You feel good. It feels a nice state because you don't have all this thinking, because you know what it is. So I'm not saying it doesn't come in, because it does, but you kind of have more freedom around it, and it's called the game of life, so play it.
Yeah. And what you're saying, Christy, is exactly, it's like I don't take life as serious as I used to. And I have more fun than I've had, and I don't know, in many years, just being able to lighten up, and that's kind of like that's what I want other people to see when I'm with them, is that this too will pass, and whatever comes my way, I know that I can handle anything.
And also, it's not forcing things in life. We all have things that we want to do and achievements we want to achieve and goals. Like with my singing, I was saying I really want all these goals to happen for me and stuff. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't mean it's not a reflection on me or my talent as an artist or anything like that. It's all to do with what's meant to be for me will be for me. And the universe has the energy. There's a universal energy working all of us that we could ever comprehend ourselves as human beings in our minds. We are so much more than just a mind. We are so much more than just a thought or a feeling. We are literally, the cosmic of the earth wrapped in skin, that stardust. Because it's true. I mean, we're not separate from anything.
Yeah. So when we were saying about understanding the principles, this is exactly, I think, the number one thing is what you're speaking of, Chrissy, is just being able to see the spiritual end of who we really are. And like, that was one of the things that my big question that I had when I first started studying the principles, and it came to me, is like, who am I? And everything points back, and once you see it and 100% who you are, then that's what I'm saying, that everything else falls in place. That's where the opening for love for anyone and anything is just there. It's there when you realize that we're not any different. We're not any different. We're all the same. Yeah.
And Debbie, it's always working from the inside out. It's never the outside world controlling us. It looks and feels like it sometimes, it really does, but it isn't. It's the inside out.
Yeah.
So anyone can't make us feel anything, or make us feel bad, or our bank balance being low to make us feel crap, or we're stuck in a traffic jam to make us feel crap. Because at the end of the day, that hasn't changed, but our thinking around it has. That's why we feel different. The situation hasn't changed. Yeah.
It's amazing knowing that we have the ability to have new thought about anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At any time. Yeah.
Some of the things that we've talked about tonight on the call, family members who are struggling and suffering, addiction, labels that we've had, and it's an absolute gift that we have the ability to have new thought about any of it and all of it.
And I think that for me, I can say this, my husband doesn't listen to it later, but I honestly, before the principles, I but felt like I was this close to divorce. He may not have known it, but in my mind, I felt it. And seeing the part that plays how relationship, and I don't know if you've read the Relationship Handbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one.
I think that was one of my first books that I read, and I'm like, oh. And I came back home, and that really opened a lot up for me, because I, saw the innocence of my husband. Of, he grew up, his Italian mother, and he did this, and he wanted to be this. So seeing who he was, I appreciated it more, and I didn't have so much on it anymore. So it really made a difference, and I think that's just grown. And that went kind of trickled down with relationships with family and friends and my children. So yeah, just being able to see that one thing is big.
I think every insight we have, they're huge, aren't they? And the
They are.
effect that each insight has is each step.
I think when we see an insight, we see it more kind of like we're stricken by it. And then what happens is that you'll see it again, but only I think you see it more and you see it deeper.
And insights are so ordinary and so normal. They're nothing big, or they can be big, they can be amazing, they can blow your head off, but they're just so ordinary and so normal.
They are ordinary.
The ability to have a new thought, see something different, to insightfully see our world in an entirely different way is just available to every human being all the time, and it's just as ordinary as fish and chips.
Sometimes
I like that
as well. Like, it's really interesting because, like, if you are going through a shitstorm in your head, right, of thoughts, right, and you can't get rid of it, and you just leave it alone, and then you lose the will to be like, right, I'm leaving it alone, let it have its way with me. Wisdom comes in. Wisdom will tell you the answer. I really believe that's the truth. Wisdom just take, it just takes over, and it tells you the answer. And and the best thing to do when you're feeling rubbish, don't figure it out, because you'll get yourself into trouble.
You'll get yourself in more trouble if you try to figure it out.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So that's my lovely friend Cherry there. Is she going to say hi? Cherry, say hello. Are you talking or not? Oh, she's just listening. She's enjoying listening.
I'm actually sitting in the park in the Leasols Park, and it's really beautiful. In fact, I'll quickly show you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God, Cherry, that's gorgeous. Looks like the Lake District. Wow.
Sky is really beautiful there.
So, I've finished work about going on holiday, and at lunchtime I go on holiday as well. And it's become a bit of a standing joke in the office, but like, we have a 30-minute lunch break, and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm on holiday for 30 minutes."
I love it.
That's cool.
Work. I have a holiday in the park, and I'm not playing. I literally come to the park and I walk barefoot on the grass for a bit, like a bit of a hippie, but I do that. And I just sit here in the trees and in the sunshine, and I just love it. It's just like a little point of beautiful quiet in the day. I just love it. So it's really cool, because I thought, you know what, let me just pull over in the park and try and jump in on this webinar if I can. And hear you guys, because I always miss the Lovely People webinar, and I always think, oh man, I forgot about it. And today, you know what, I'm going to listen in. So,
it's lovely to have you here with us, Cherry.
Oh, it's lovely to see you, Debbie. I hope we see you up here again soon.
Yes, we are coming up in a few weeks. Yeah, so I'll have to.
Jat is on.
Is Jat on the weekend?
Yeah, Helen said that they're going, so she was.
Oh well, we will be there.
Okay, good. Yes.
Oh wow, I wish I could be there with you guys, but I'll be with you in spirit. Yeah. I'll be your stardust, remember?
We'll have a sprinkle of stardust there. We will. It's been really, really lovely to have you here with us tonight.
Oh, it's lovely to be with you guys as well. And thank you to Cherry. Only half an hour ago, as I said, she sent me the link on Facebook, and here I am.
Yeah, and thank you to our lovely, lovely guest, Debbie. Thank you very, very much. So if people want to get in contact with you and find out more about you and what you do, where can they find you?
Okay, organic, ORGANIC, insight, INSIGHT, at yahoo.com. They can send me a message, and and then my website is your, YOUR, organic, ORGANIC, insight.
Okay. So, and if anybody forgets that or doesn't, you're on Facebook, aren't you? So, and if anybody
yes, absolutely, be friends on Facebook. We'll
you're
keep
very
you up with what's fresh and new. Yeah.
I was going to ask you that.
Is that what it's called? What's fresh and new, Debbie? Your face.
No, but I like that. I like that.
I like
fresh and new. Thank you for that idea.
Yeah.
Idea.
I think it's good when you talk about the principles to talk about something that's relevant for you now, because I think that's what hits people, because principles are so they do make this an absolutely level playing field, and we can all benefit from kind of knowing something. And I think when people are sharing something that's really alive for them in the moment, then I think that hits home with people. They hear something in that. So thank you for all your sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, lovely.
And I will be heading to the beach tomorrow morning.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to go down to the beach tonight. We might. It's so lovely out there.
So
in a minute.
You must be very close to the beach.
Yeah, we are close. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's really lovely. So next week we have the lovely Sue Anderson as our guest next week on the Lovely People webinar. So if anyone would like, it's the same link. If you've got the link, you can come again next week, and I will put the link out there anyway. So it's from 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock next week. I don't think any of you, we've got Judith, I think, has joined us. So we're not doing our physical meetups through the summer, but we have got a workshop this weekend at the farm where we're living. So if you do live in North Devon, or you are on holiday,
or if you want to travel in,
on a whole weekend near the sea, we have got our workshop this weekend, so it'd be great to see you. And thank you all very, very much for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. It was fun.
And Deborah, just to say quickly to Debbie, we should get a retreat in the UK.
That would be awesome. That'd be beautiful.
Okay, then. Thank you for your input.
Right.
Thank you, everyone, for what
Thank you.
It's been lovely.
Have a great evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.